after her murderous deeds. She proudly came with 10 million naira to bribe him, only to discover that he owned the estate and many more. He was a living wealth in plain clothes.
They said love never dies, but betrayal kills more than just the heart. This is the story of a man who lost everything, not to the world, but to the one he loved most. She stole the last of his family treasure and flee. And when she came back with riches and regrets, she found a different man. Broken and healing, but reborn. Tom and Rose were two vibrant and promising young lovers that were envied among their peers, but frowned at by her parents. The kind of lovers that made people believed in love again, while some just admired with regrets of not having the opportunity to experience love in their own shade. Young, hopeful, and radiant with dreams, their love lit their neighborhoods like morning sun on glossy rooftops. Tom was a determined young man with a passion for architecture, worked as a junior draftsman at a local construction firm. He wasn't wealthy to the world, but in his mind, his wealth was a standout in the future. The quiet boy who dreamed of building towers from nothing, was determined and focused, responsible, kind, and most importantly, deeply in love with Rose. Rose, on the other hand, was the daughter of a highly respected assistant pastor of one of Lagos' largest Pentecostal churches. She was effortlessly beautiful with gorgeously structured endowment. And with a voice that could bring tears to any congregation whenever she switched gears to worshiping mood. As the choir mistress, she was beloved in the church, the jewel of her father's eyes, and seen by many as destined for a bright and sanctified future. While her angelic voice pulls the congregation, it was Tom that pulls her heart. Against her father's wishes, she chose Tom and loved him beyond words. They would meet at odd hours, after midweek services, during Tom's lunch breaks, and on Sundays, after church activities, they eagerly rushed into each other's arms. Their dreams were laced with soft promises, and not without wedding bells in the midst. "One day, I will build a mansion and make you proud and happy for the rest of your life," Tom would say, while brushing her hair from her face, with soft touches of intimacies. And she would always reply with hopeful smiles. "And I will always be the queen of your heart and the madam of the house." And for a time, it seemed the universe agreed with their dreams. But life always have a habit of testing the beautiful strength of promises that people do when drunken with fantasy. Just when everything seemed to be pacing sweetly, Tom was laid off when the company he worked for went bankrupt. At first, he didn't tell Rose because he feared that she would be demoralized due to her high standards. He hunted desperately for a new job and hoped to secure one before letting her know. He wanted to protect her. But weeks turned into months, and the burden of joblessness grew heavy. He tried everything to keep up. Odd jobs and manual labor, borrowing small money from friends just to buy data and continue applying online. But Lagos can sometimes be cruel to the hopeful. Then came the hardest decision of his life. He knew that he had to do something, and whatever it was, he had to do it fast and start clearing his bills and providing comfort to his beloved, Rose. This time, he had to travel to his village. Back in his village in Delta State, Tom's father had a small piece of ancestral farmland, which was the only inheritance the family had. With great shame and trembling heart, Tom traveled home and begged his aging father to allow him to sell it with a promise of buy him more farmlands and properties. "Papa, let me sell it. Just give me time. I'll hustle and double your fortune before long, I swear. It is easier to make money in Lagos, just trust me. I'll buy you 10 hectares in return." After a painful family meeting, the land was sold. It fetched just a humble 2.7 million Nigerian nairas for that size of land. Tom returned to Lagos with renewed determination and ready to start a business, rent a shop, and surprise Rose with his bounce-back plan. But to his surprise, Rose had changed. It started with strange silences and failed appointments. Rose stopped replying to messages and ignored most of his calls. When they finally met, she seemed distracted and cold. She wore new weaves, new shoes. Her Android phone was already replaced with an iPhone that kept buzzing with foreign numbers. Tom was too desperate to suspect anything, and even if he did, he couldn't stand the idea of losing Rose to another man. So, he feared and avoided the thought of it. All he wanted was to get back the woman in her, whom he had always known and loved. He told her everything, the sale of the land, the plans he had, the future they could rebuild. Rose nodded but remained silent about it. Tom wasn't sure if she was impressed with the idea. But when she asked to hold the money for him, to avoid him from pinching into it and reducing the business capital, he quickly handed over all the money, excited that she was in support. She told him that her father's cousin worked in a microfinance bank that could help secure the money before his business registration was complete. His hesitation may have lingered in him, but his eagerness to realign their affection was in play. And love had made him blind before. Just 2 days later, Rose vanished. Her lines were switched off and her social media accounts deleted. When Tom finally forced himself to go to her house, her mother stood at the entrance with her arms folded, lips tightened and her countenance confrontational. "She is gone," she barked, like it was a victorious phenomenon. "She is gone to the UK, with someone who can take good care of her. Thank God for delivering her from you at last." Tom collapsed on the street in front of her house, while neighbors watched. No one moved to give him a consoling words because no one understood the gravity of what Rose, the holier-than-thou daughter of a pastor, has just done to him. He was broken, and he was left with no option but to return to his village, and his father sat in silence, watching him approach with empty hands. The old man said nothing but totally shattered inside with a broken heart. The old man died 2 months later, and his mother, who used to be a very vibrant and joyful woman, was left to weep and mourn him empty-handedly until she died within a year after his father's death. He sold the family land for a city girl, the villagers whispered and frowned at Tom. No one wanted to be associated with him, for sending his father and mother to their early graves. She took the money and ran away, and now the gods are angry, they said. Tom left the village again and wandered through the streets of Lagos, working as a bricklayer on construction sites. He slept in sheds and some sites while making frantic effort to saving money. Rose arrived in the UK like a butterfly fleeing the cocoon of Lagos heat. The man she followed was a white businessman from Liverpool. He was divorced, wealthy, and nearly 20 years older than she was. He met Rose through an online prayer group and had flown to Nigeria on a holiday, but returned with a choir mistress instead as his souvenirs. Rose quickly adapted in the UK. She opened fresh social media account and posted glamorous photos, wine glasses, snowflakes, sleek cars, expressing flamboyant lifestyle. She told people she had outgrown Nigeria and done with the church girl persona. To her UK friends, she never spoke of Tom. To her Nigerian ones, she said he betrayed her. But comfort has a short shelf lifespan to the reign of those with ulterior dubious-minded cloud. Her over-celebrated and flaunted marriage lasted barely 2 years. Her husband caught her cheating with a Congolese musician, and the court proceedings drained her emotionally. It wasn't long, when another man went down on bended knee, and soon she was married to another man. As hard as it may be to believe, her second marriage turned out to be another disaster. That one ended with a broken jaw and a police report. Whatever hunted Rose was definitely relentless, and the whole event was begging to be hidden from her parents' pride and reputation. But the power of social media superseded. Rose's beauty faded slowly. The circles beneath her eyes deepened and her angelic voice lost its music. When her second divorce was finalized, she received a hefty settlement. Her crying mother, back in Nigeria, did some spiritual consultations and it was revealed that she wronged someone. The gravity of her deeds to Tom hovered over her wherever she went. With no love, no friends, and no peace, Rose did the unthinkable. Against her mother's advice to call Tom on the phone and ask for his forgiveness, she booked a flight to Nigeria to find Tom. She gave his phone number to somebody and with his help, they traced his phone number and found him at a construction site. Tom had just finished mixing cement when he turned and saw a different-looking Rose, standing with two other men and staring questioningly at him. Rose broke down with crocodile tears and begged. But the sight of her alone brought back too much memories that he had struggled to push behind him. He remembered the look of indifference on his father's face when he first went back to the village with the sad news. Then he remembered the look on his face, lying instead, in the casket. He felt the guilt, the pains that led him to his early grave, the pains of his widowed mother that tormented her to grave. Tom closed his eyes and allowed a free flow of streams of tears. Just then, he felt Rose's hands holding his hands. He opened his eyes and saw on bended knees. He calmly ordered them to leave the sight immediately. "I brought you something," she whispered. From the SUV, a man carried out a gift box, a car key, and a bank transfer slip for 10 million Nigerian nairas. "I bought a house in your name too. Just say the word, and I'll do anything. Anything." She was crying now and still on her knees. Wailing. Tom finally looked down at her, not with hate, and not even anger. But with silence. That painful silence that took a cue from the same kind of silence that his late father held on to. "You buried me alive, Rose," he said, softly, but the softness in his voice was glossed with undiluted bitterness. "I died. My father died. My mother too. You killed us all. Nobody is alive to receive your gift of money, car, and a house. I don't need anything from you. You leave now." He turned and walked away to a hidden corner of the construction site and wept bitterly and uncontrollably. Rose, who paid her friend to cover up for her in her place of work at the UK, received an urgent call that her attention was urgently needed. She rushed back to the UK, with the intention of coming back soon to make peace with Tom. It's been 10 years, and Tom was then working in Abuja, but not as a bricklayer. Years ago, one of the architects on a construction site noticed Tom's hand-drawn sketches on cement bags and asked, "Who drew this?" Tom was called, and that moment changed everything for him. It was the turning point in his life. Tom was sponsored to attend a weekend architectural design course. He studied and worked night shifts, and slowly built a career. Quietly, but invisibly. Now, he was the owner of Skyrise Project, a firm building mini estates across the north central of Nigeria. But he remained on the background and told no one about it. Not even the people in his village. He lived simply. He drove a simple but respectable car. He donated anonymously in honor of his late parents. He built a house for the village school, but signed the documents under a foundation's name. Tom made sure that his name was not pronounced in the public. So when Rose arrived back in Nigeria and tracked him again, expecting to find him a broken man that will eagerly rush to collect her gifts and dance to honor her, she found him sitting outside a modest house in a quiet neighborhood, on his sandals and a distant gaze in his eyes. She stepped out of a hired SUV, dressed in all white, looking like gilt that was wrapped in lace. "Tom," she called, and he looked up and blinked. Then stood up slowly. There was silence as the wind blew. "Rose," he said, calmly. She ran to him and dropped to her knees. "I came back again. I came to say I'm sorry. I made a mistake and I wronged you badly. Tom, I lost everything twice and my life is miserable without you. I've suffered so much, but I'm here now. And I want to fix things with you. Tom, I still have the 10 million naira that I promised you the last time, and I am willing to double this for you. Please forgive me. The house that I bought for you is still there in your name. Please give me a second chance. We can start all over if you want, please, Tom." "A second chance with the woman that killed my both parents," he said calmly, as if talking to himself. "Do you realize that every time I see you, I remember the suffering and dying of my parents? The pains in the eyes of my mourning mother and the heavy heart of my kind father. Rose, tell me, how can I live with that, and how can you fix that? With 10 million naira and a house. Tom walked away calmly. She screamed his name and the neighbors peeked, but Tom didn't look back. Rose didn't leave immediately. She waited. She returned to the compound the next day, and again, 2 days after. But Tom never came out again. One evening, she approached a curious young neighbor, a tailor named Musa, who had watched the drama from afar. Why is he still living here? Rose asked him. I thought he was poor. Musa blinked at her with a surprise. Madam, you don't know. He chuckled and looked around. Oga, Tom owns this whole street. The compound you're standing is part of his estate. Don't you know Skyrise Projects? It's his company, madam. But he doesn't drive big cars and I like him for that. He is very humble and kind. He even donated our community borehole but refused to attend the opening ceremony. Rose's legs gave way beneath her and her heart ached. She had returned thinking she would rescue a broken man, not realizing she had come to beg at the feet of wealth in plain clothes. She felt defeated and helpless. Later that week, a news article confirmed it. Skyrise Projects, led by reclusive architect Thomas Odigwe, secures contract for new federal estate in Abuja. Her hands shook as she struggled to read the article but couldn't really understood the words she was reading because a million thoughts struggled for space in her mind. His photo was there, clean-shaven, in a suit, standing beside senators and contractors. He wasn't just successful but seemingly untouchable. 2 months passed. Nothing worked for her and every business ideas failed. She knew no peace. She aged faster than her mirror could explain. One morning, she received a parcel by courier. It was from Tom. Inside was an old photo of them, taken in their early days. On the back, he had written a single line: "You don't feed a man to the wolves and return with bread." No name. No return address. That was the last she ever heard from him. Back in Tom's village, the elders began telling the story to the young ones. Do not betray those who love you and stood with you during the storm. You may return when the rain stops, but find out they've built a mansion without you. Children now know Tom's name, but young girls frown if they ever get called by the name Rose. His rise is a proverb. And Rose? She became a shadow, and despised at the sound of the name. A living lesson. There are wounds that time can heal, but there are betrayals that are so deep, only silence answers them. Tom never raised his voice. He never fought. He never sought revenge. He simply became everything they said he couldn't, without fanfare, without noise, and ultimately, without Rose. And when the one who left him returned with money, guilt, and apologies, he chose peace over pity. Dignity over drama. Not all who return deserve a second chance. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt, they're meant to be remembered as the place where you almost drowned. So if you love someone in their struggle, stay. Stand with them in the storm. Because when the rain clears, they might just rise. And when they do, you may no longer be welcome in their sunshine. You don't feed a man to the wolves and return with bread. True loyalty is tested in hardship. If you abandon those who love you when they have nothing, don't expect a seat at their table when they have everything.